And then finally, I just want to briefly tell you, I think this is a critical asset in terms of getting past the obstacles we encounter. But this is also what I do now. So I was an academic physician most of my career. I was at Yale in one capacity or another for 30 years. I left that to run my own company. And I left to run my own company because I invented something really important that deserved to see daylight. There's an expression from the world of business: we manage what we measure. It's equally relevant in medicine. What matters most we call vital signs. And of course, they're measured routinely. We routinely measure blood pressure and heart rate. You've all had that done. It's impossible not to have that done if you encounter the system. If you go to the emergency room, every time you're in a clinical setting, your blood pressure gets taken. It's a vital sign. Your temperature gets taken. Vital sign. Well, if we only manage what we measure, and we need to measure what matters, and we sure as heck need to measure diet because it matters most. That's where this talk began. Diet is the single leading predictor variable for all-cause mortality and total chronic disease. Well, it's a vital sign then. You just tell it's vital. It's vital to every aspect of health. And by the way, not just human health, but planetary health. It's vital beyond the extent even of those vital signs we already measure. When Mozaffarian and Glickman wrote this op-ed in the New York Times in August of 2019, first they highlighted the problem. Our food is indeed killing too many of us. They went on to enumerate the remedy, and the first thing they mentioned was nutrition should be captured in everybody's electronic health record. This ought to be treated essentially as a vital sign. So this was an opinion in the New York Times, but it's evolved into something else because just a few months ago, the American College of Cardiology published a position statement in their flagship journal, Circulation, saying the same. Diet is so important in cardiovascular medicine. It is now crucial to capture it in every clinical encounter. If only we had a tool that made that possible, because the tools that we have had to date don't. They take too long, they're too hard, they rely on memory, which is faulty. Well, I knew this before it became the position statement of the American College of Cardiology. If we want to manage diet, we need to measure diet routinely. Everybody should know what their diet is. They should know their diet type. They should know their diet quality, the same way they know their blood pressure. It's that important. So for the better part of 5 years, I had been working with a team of elite scientists. I imagine you recognize some of these people. Walter Willett was chair of nutrition at Harvard before Frank Hugh. David Jenkins invented the glycemic index. Christopher Gardner at Stanford. Linda Snetzlar is currently editor-in-chief of the Journal of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, and on it goes. An incredible team. We worked for 5 years, and we built an entirely new way to assess diet. It's called Diet Quality Photo Navigation. The tool is called Diet ID. And it works like this. Which picture of balloons is in focus, right? If anybody's ever been to the eye doctor, you obviously know that I have. That's how you get a corrective lens. You don't fill out a lengthy questionnaire and try to remember how you think you saw at different times of day in different places in different kinds of light when you were tired, not tired. That would be a train wreck. Now you look at 2 images and say the bottom one is more in focus, and then you get 2 more images and they say, how about now? You've all played this game, I trust. The device, by the way, is called a phoropter. So the phoropter shows you 2 images at a time, one more in focus than the other. Your job is simply to say which one's more in focus. If you do that enough times, in about 30 seconds, they have an exact match for your eyes in diopters. And anybody wearing glasses is a beneficiary of that. We've done that for diet. We've mapped the diets of the United States and this part of the world. We've mapped them along an x-axis in terms of operationally defined diet type. We've mapped them on the y-axis in terms of objectively measured diet quality using something called the Healthy Eating Index 2015. We have 10 tiers of quality for every kind of diet. And by the way, the high quality diets, no matter what kind of diet it is, they're more alike than different. They are real food, mostly plants, but they're not all exclusively plants because not everybody in the real world eats that way. But we created images to represent every cell in that map. We started out with a 3-day meal plan representing that type of diet at that quality level and turned that into an image. And then we invented a technique called dietary fingerprinting to produce images small enough so that we could show them on a smartphone screen. So a lot of science behind the scenes. We use the Mifflin-St. Jeor equation for any dietitians in the group to actually measure energy intake and right-size the diet. We use NDSR software package to generate a nutrient database, and in 60 seconds, we can tell you what your diet type is, your diet quality, objectively measured, estimate intake of 150 nutrients, tell you about your intake of different servings of all the different food groups as well. But all you have to do to get there from here is look at 2 images at a time and say, which of these looks more like stuff you eat, A or B? And if you tell us you don't eat meat, then you don't see any images with meat in it to begin with. So we ask a couple of screener questions that take 5 or 10 seconds. So we drop you into the right part of our map, and then we right size the diet. We get it as close a fit as we can. It's easy, it's fun, it takes about 60 seconds, whereas a food frequency questionnaire takes 90 minutes, a multi-day food diary takes multiple days. And we have every kind of diet under the sun. We even have a lot of ethnic diets, and that's really important because if we want to help people eat better, telling people who have a Latin diet, give that up and eat this way isn't going to work. People have a South Asian diet. But you can optimize diets within an ethnic context, and what we've built allows for that. For any clinicians in the group, we're a B2B company, so we're not selling this to individuals. We're not a consumer app. But for the clinician, we have this comprehensive dashboard of information made available. So again, dietitians or clinicians in the mix, this may be of interest. We have validated this against the semi-quantitative food frequency questionnaire, 1 paper published, and an outside group validated us against a 24-hour recall, another paper published, and we've deployed into more than 6 ongoing NIH-funded studies around the country. This works as intended. There's a lot more to this story, but I don't want to belabor it. Learn more at dietid.com. Our mission is to make diet the vital sign it deserves to be. We manage what we measure. Diet is the most important measure of health in the modern world. It ought to be measured in everybody. And we have the means to do that, and we're on a mission to make it so. So I will wrap up there. The view decides the lens. And when we talk about the outsized influence of diet on all things that matter, I think we need 3 lenses. And if we apply all 3 lenses, the truth about food is perfectly clear and in focus and incontrovertible. One lens is what are the direct effects of dietary intake patterns on human health? We know a lot about that. But sometimes people will take what we know, append what they prefer or believe, and act like it's all one thing. I won't do that. And I will tell you that we definitely know that diets of real food, plant predominant, are the best. Beyond that, it's a matter of preference. But where does that preference come from? The other 2 lenses. It's really important not to have cruelty on the menu. It just is for anybody with a conscience. And it's absolutely crucial that we eat in a way that sustains the vitality of this planet. As you've heard, there is no planet B. There are no healthy people on a ruined, inhospitable planet, and our dietary intake patterns at scale have massive implications for the planet. If you look at diet through 3 lenses, as I think we should, it's an incontrovertible argument for eating lots of vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, lentils, nuts, and seeds, and drinking plain water when thirsty, and doing very little of anything else, if not avoiding it outright. And again, we're very fortunate that everything that matters most about diet for one of these considerations lines up well against the other. So there have been multiple papers looking at shifts in environmental impact and diet quality for human health. I showed you one earlier. Here's another one, multiple health and environmental impacts of foods. They move together. And when you get into the body of a paper like this, things get pretty dense pretty fast. But essentially, if you look at those top charts, look at the headers at the top: mortality, coronary disease, and the green are all the foods that have a favorable effect: whole grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, legumes, potatoes, and then everything starts to go south after that. If you look at B, the bottom set of charts, and look across the top, these are harmful effects on the environment. So adding acid to the environment, ruining soil, greenhouse gas emissions, using up land, depleting water. It's exactly the same list in green: whole grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, legumes, starchy vegetables, tubers. Wow. What a clear endorsement of the idea that we should be basing our diets on unprocessed plant foods. And not just for one reason, but for 3. And here it is plotted where you see risk of mortality along the bottom and the environmental impact along the side. And again, what's highlighted in green is the foods that have a favorable influence on both. And you do see that, there's a little bit of splay here, because refined grains are still good for the environment, but they're not as good for human health, right? So there's a little bit of wiggle room to debate, but by and large, eat plants and eat them in a minimally processed form. Better for you, better for the planet. We know this. The basic care and feeding of Homo sapiens is not a mystery. It's not what we don't know about diet that most threatens our health. It's the constant wild misrepresentations of what we do know. And with that, my friends, I thank you very much for your time and attention.